Good afternoon, and welcome to the Ways and Means Subcommittee meeting of August 25th. Before us, we have a few items on the agenda, the first being the capital needs assessment and proposal. His Honor the Mayor will be first to head off our agenda. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and Councilor Mirabito. Thank you very much for being here. So, as you alluded to, Mr. Chairman, this particular item has to do with a capital improvement plan. And before I just say a few brief words about why it's important for us to pursue a capital improvement plan, the question may arise as to the city already having a capital improvement plan. And you may have seen that capital improvement plan either online or in its paper version. But as we have reviewed that plan, the plan, number one, is not comprehensive, and number two, does not have any logical timeline on when these projects ought to be done. So what we're looking to do is have a real defined capital improvement plan that will lead this city down over the next 3, 5, 10 years. So, that being said, because we currently have no fixed plan in addressing the replacement of vehicles, the upkeep of buildings, or the ongoing management of the capital assets that we have, we want to pursue this. Our current strategy for replacing assets on an emergency basis is simply not sustainable, nor is it prudent. Through our performance management program, as you both know, that we call RevStat, our version of CityStat, it has become very clear that many of our capital assets are not being managed properly. For example, we know that many of the pickup trucks at our DPW are no longer what might be considered having any real useful life left. This, in and of itself, is not a problem. However, we're now facing questions about whether do we repair these trucks or do we replace them. And without a proper plan in place that talks about the replacement, we're forced to make decisions that sometimes are not in the best interest of the city. And it results in not only not allowing our employees at the Public Works Department to not be able to do their jobs properly, but it results in unnecessary spending and unnecessary administrative time spent determining what this best course of action is. The process of creating the city's first comprehensive capital improvement plan will correct this and other similar inefficiencies. And it will go beyond simply addressing which streets will be repaired throughout the city, which is largely what you'll see in our capital improvement plan now. It will address all of our fixed assets and create a 5-year plan outlining specific improvements. Here is just a brief list of benefits. It will avoid costly emergency spending and costly repairs due to deferred maintenance. It will allow the city to carefully weigh all financing options to determine which is in the best interest of the taxpayers. It will strengthen the city's financial position in the eyes of our bond rating agencies. It will reduce and better manage risks associated with old and worn-out equipment and buildings. It will improve economic development opportunities through the maintenance of high-quality infrastructure and city services, which will attract new business and new investment. It will allow uninterrupted, high-quality city services to residents and visitors. Projects will be completed based on the priorities of the community, such as health, public safety, economic development, and quality of life. Especially important to have a plan if the city receives an influx of money from this new casino project, which, as we know, will be decided upon inside the next 30 days, probably sooner than that. And city staff who have never undertaken a comprehensive capital improvement plan before will learn the skills necessary to continually examine and update the plan so that it will be relevant for many years to come, even as the goals and the priorities of the cities may change. The reason for this meeting, obviously, is I'm requesting an appropriation from the Stabilization Fund in the amount of $45,000 to conduct this study through the Edward J. Collins Center for Public Management at the University of Massachusetts. Since UMass is a public institution, the request is bid exempt, so it's not subject to Chapter 30B. I understand that the council may have reservations about using stabilization for this study, but I believe that undertaking this program with UMass will ensure that the City of Revere maintains its capital assets in the best way possible for years to come. I would like to now introduce members from the Collins Center at the University of Massachusetts who will be discussing this capital improvement plan proposal with you in depth. And I'd like to say hello to my friend, Councilor Charlie Patch. So good to see you, Charlie. First up, I'd like to bring up the Director of Municipal Services, Michael Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. I'm actually not going to do any of the talking today, except to thank you for the opportunity to let the Collins Center present this proposal to you. We hope you will take it under consideration, and we'll be happy to answer any questions after a very brief presentation. At this point, I'm going to turn it over actually to Monica Lamboy, who is going to kick us off, and then a couple other people will also fill you in on a couple of the details. So, thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the Ways and Means Committee. My name is Monica Lamboy. I'm a senior associate at the Edward J. Collins Center for Public Management at UMass Boston. Thank you for allowing us to come this afternoon to speak with you. What we would hope to do this afternoon is to tell you a little bit about the center and the project team that we're proposing to work with yourselves and department heads, and to talk about what a capital plan would be and the steps that we would propose to help you craft a comprehensive plan, a 5-year plan for capital improvement. The Edward J. Collins Center was created in 2008 with a specific mission for improving the efficiency, effectiveness of governance at all levels, with a particular focus on local government and state government. We offer an array of services, including performance management, which you are familiar with. We do organizational studies, executive recruitment, analysis of human resource departments, an array of different things which you can see on the slides that were passed out. And I don't need to belabor. The team that we're proposing to bring together to work with the City of Revere has over 100 years of local government experience combined. A little bit scary, but we do. I will be the project manager. I have over 25 years of local government experience in long-range strategic planning, in organizational development, and in finance, having worked with the City of Somerville, Washington, D.C., Oakland, California, other places as well. I will be joined by Thatcher Kieser, who is the former mayor of Amesbury, who has extensive experience in Massachusetts, working with the Massachusetts Municipal Association, MAPC, and an array of different organizations, and firsthand experience doing the type of work that you're all proposing to do here with the capital plan. We also have Anthony Teresi. He has over 40 years of experience in finance in local government in Massachusetts, was recognized for the work he did in Andover, and has put together multiple capital improvement plans. We also have two of our bright stars, Sarah Concannon and Shelley Airvase, who are government services specialists, who have great expertise in data management, and Sarah in particular has a great depth of understanding of the community here and the city, having worked on the Municipal Performance Management Improvement Program. So we hope that you will find our qualifications for this project more than ample. So what is a capital plan? As the Massachusetts DOR says, it's a blueprint for some of the largest expenditures that local elected officials will have to decide upon. Your infrastructure, your buildings, heavy equipment, those sorts of things. And it's one of the most important responsibilities that you have, the mayor has, that we all have that work for local government, to make sure we have a great quality of life and we've set the community up for success, particularly in terms of economic development. It's a means to plan, to look ahead, to be able to prioritize comprehensively the needs that the community may have. Some of the projects that we are going to talk about in this process are multiple millions of dollars, and they will take many years to accomplish. And by weighing them against each other and putting together a timeline, you'll be able to work through it, as opposed to responding to emergencies such as water main breaks or sewer leaks, etc. And it's a management tool that will allow you to also think about what types of debt over multiple years the community can handle. Moving to the next slide, what does the capital plan include? It includes major, and it's important, non-recurring expenditures for things such as land acquisition, such as new facilities or major facility improvements. This could be to libraries, to schools, to your parks, to your playgrounds, and sewer lines, your infrastructure. Some of the most costly infrastructure we have lies below the ground and is often not thought of until we have an emergency. So your sewer and your water lines, I know you're doing some major work as it is. It's also monies for planning and design of these types of facilities, and in the case of a new facility, furniture. What it does not include are the types of things that you would find typically in your operating budget, short-term, small expenditures, or things that are recurring. But I think as we move along, my colleagues can talk a little bit more about those sorts of things. So I'm going to turn it over to Thatcher Kieser.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here for the council. I am Thatcher Kieser. I am one of the newest members to the Collins Center. And as I was introduced earlier, the former mayor of Amesbury, 8 years putting together 8 capital improvement plans. Also worked a lot with Revere in the past as the staff member running the Metro Mayors Coalition, MMA, other organizations. So I've had quite some involvement from time to time in Revere. I'm pleased to be back here. And it's been 9 months, I think, since I've done a presentation to a city council. So it's good to do one once again. What I'm going to talk about briefly is, why a capital improvement plan. And on the PowerPoint slides in the presentation in front of you are some bullet points that identify a list of reasons. What I want to emphasize is, the word plan. And the plan is part of a strategy by the city that meets the objectives and the financial objectives of the city. If you don't have a good plan, a good strategy, you will be reacting rather than being proactive in dealing with the capital needs of the community. It also allows for coordination of your assets. In my experience, what I've learned in doing public works improvements, I'm sure you get a lot of calls about paving of streets that need to be done. Well, you never want to put a brand new road on top of old water pipes and sewer pipes. So there's a whole complexity of coordination that needs to be done on your infrastructure improvements so that all the pieces work together, coordinate together, so that you're not wasting money putting a new road only to have some of the old infrastructure underneath blow up underneath that brand new road and dig it up again. So it gives you that coordination. It has a financial benefit as far as your credit rating. The credit agencies obviously are going to want to pay attention to what is your plan, what is your strategy, because that has a real impact on your future liabilities. If your infrastructure is falling apart, if your public safety cannot respond properly because of the facilities they're in or the equipment they're using can't get the job done, that will reflect in those type of analysis. And so there again, a lot of benefits in regard to having a really good strategy, a really good plan, and coordination going forward. As far as reasons or some of the downside of not investing, some of us that are old enough to remember the old Midas commercials, you can pay us now or you can pay us later. In capital projects and in infrastructure, when you know you have a need for an improvement, the longer you wait, the higher the cost. It's just costs always go up in regard to that type of improvement. So having a planning, having a strategy so that you can implement it in a coordinated way means that you don't wait till the infrastructure fails. You don't wait till you're in a crisis. You don't wait till the ceiling's caving in on you to know that you need to move on a project systematically and meet the needs of the community. So I'm not going to go through each bullet item in front of you, but those are the emphasis on doing that. Next, under the project plan, there is a basic strategy or steps to follow that are typically done in putting a plan together. And in a big part, it involves a lot of collaboration. It involves a lot of input from the council, from the administration, from key stakeholders that are affected by it. So we always start off with a kickoff meeting with the project team, having those folks designated that we communicate with on a regular basis to advance this project. Then there is a capital project request form. It's the information gathering, collecting all the data. In fact, your current capital improvement plan is sort of a start for that because it has information in it, but we would like to enhance that, collect a lot more information, and then interviews with key stakeholders. And again, that's the collaboration part. Representatives of the City Council, School Committee, Planning Board, Conservation Commission are examples that are listed here. And then gathering understanding of the priorities. Every community has its own needs, its own priorities that it sets. I know, operating in my city, that I can't presume what any other city's priorities are. There's a lot of similarities. There are differences. So part of it is to understand as much as we can what those priorities are. Task 4, establishing prioritization criteria. By what means are you going to evaluate and decide what order projects need to be done? And that's setting the priorities. Some of the examples are key is if improvements need to be made to protect life and property, public safety issues, concerns, public concerns of safety and such are obviously top items. Task 5, develop prioritization listing of projects. So develop the list, the sort order in which they'll be in. And then task 6 is the financial planning. By what means are you going to support funding of these projects? And that's a key component. There are various sources of funding, be it appropriation, be it bonding, be it state funding, be it Chapter 90 funding. There are a list of different revenue sources to be identified to support. And typically, a lot of projects are funded by multiple sources. And my experience, and all of your experience, I'm sure, is these funding sources don't neatly align themselves all the time to arrive all at the same time to get something done. So it's having a strategy to meet that complexity. Task 7 is preparing a draft plan. And that's the 5-year plan that lays out strategy over the next 5 years. Though a lot of your capital projects, capital needs extend far beyond the 5 years, but it's a 5-year look ahead of what you're going to try to accomplish in the next 5 years. Usually, in my experience, the closer years are at a much greater detail than the back years. And things change over time, so you're continuously adjusting. But those are the basic tasks of putting the plan together, and then all the council will be having a major say in how that's accomplished. So that covers my section. Any questions? Yeah.
When you come to the podium, please state your name, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Anthony Teresi. I do go by Tony if we move on to the project, so feel free to use that first name. My whole career has been in local government. I started in Danvers as an intern. When I graduated from graduate school at Northeastern with an MBA, I continued on in Danvers for about a year. I went to the city of Worcester for 4 years, and for the last 32 years, I was the finance and budget director for the town of Andover. I was actually their first finance and budget director when those positions were starting to be created. I retired from that position, but I am still very much interested in helping local governments, and that's why I have become involved with the Collins Center. I like to think of capital planning as it's somewhat similar to if you think of Christmas and a Christmas list from your kids or grandchildren. There's a list of what they'd like, and then you have to think about, well, how the heck am I going to fund it? So the piece that I'm talking about is kind of the funding of the plan. Thatcher talked briefly about it, but perhaps the most key thing to keep in mind is that because of the limitations of Proposition 2.5, you're going to see that that the funding sources are certainly restricted in the area of taxes, but there are also other avenues to take advantage of that are non-tax sources. Commonly used in the tax-supported funding, obviously, of the operating budget. When we did, there was a mention of things like vehicles and other things not being in the capital plan. That doesn't mean that they're not in the capital improvement program. They still should be identified in the capital improvement program, and it could be that they're in the operating budget, depending upon your local practice in Revere, whether they're in department operating budgets or they're in an omnibus item that comes before you for many pieces of equipment. So it's still an important part. It will be included. I just wanted to make that clear, that it's not being excluded. It's just in terms of kind of definitions. Free cash, if you're lucky enough to have some, that's one avenue. A debt exclusion, certainly it's a difficult decision. Major projects tend to be funded with debt exclusions. Some communities have the CPA. There are some methods with tax increment financing that are both economic benefits to the community and financial benefits. Special assessments, and then in some cases, communities may have stabilization funds, or they have other sources of local revenue. On the non-tax supported source, we have enterprise funds, water and sewer. Some communities are at the point where their water and sewer system is self-sufficient, one or both, so there may be opportunities to utilize kind of that whole structure in a water and sewer system. State and federal grants, great source of revenues. And then it's listed here, parking meter receipts, but there may be other dedicated funds that are available for particular purposes, community development block grants and other funds that may exist for very specific purposes. Now, the funding mechanisms are pay-as-you-go. When I talked briefly about things like vehicles and smaller apparatus, pay-as-you-go means simply from the operating budget. It's part of, just as you would consider salaries and expenses, it's from current dollars. And it's important to look at how much money should be allocated from the regular budget as part of a capital improvement program. Other, of course, are general obligation bonds. That's borrowing funds. You pledge the revenue from the community, but the borrowing can take place over a number of years, depending upon the type of project that you are entertaining. Revenue bonds are used in certain kind of enterprise programs, and special obligation bonds. So there are a number of funding mechanisms. The importance of the capital improvement program, I think, is to recognize that there are things you like to do, things you must do, and then how do you fund them. With that, I'd like to turn the next part of the presentation back to Monica to talk about some of the optional tasks.
Thank you. We have two additional optional tasks that we would like to offer. One would be to host a community meeting where we could speak to members of the public that were interested, explaining what a capital plan is, and soliciting from them what some of the priorities may be, whether citywide or their particular neighborhood. Another optional task that we are offering is to help update the fixed asset inventory for the city. Those are not in our current cost proposal, but we could come up with cost proposals for both of those. Moving on to timeline, this is a rather time-intensive project. The one community that we're working with currently, the The stack of capital request forms is probably a good 4 inches high, so we will need quite a bit of time to work with the departments and to go through that. So what we're proposing is a kickoff meeting in September, meeting with department representatives September and October, and allowing them time to come up with project proposals, getting those back to us in October / November. And then we'll begin the process of evaluating, rating, putting together some sizable spreadsheets that can be used to filter and to look at the data that we have, and working with other members of the staff over here to help come up with the prioritization, with a goal of having a plan available in the spring that can go through a public review process that you all determine is appropriate and to be incorporated into your upcoming budget cycle for FY16. So why work with the Collins Center? Again, we have a project team with extensive experience in municipal government and also in capital planning. We have a very collaborative process that we will work with the department heads, we'll work with community members and yourselves, and we have a depth of sincere understanding of the financial challenges and the fact that the demand often exceeds the resources available, and we'll help you prioritize the plans. So with that, I'm open to any comments or questions that you may have.
Now, does the $45,000 include everything that's included in the timeline?
Everything that's included in the timeline, yes.
And how many other clients do you have?
The center as a whole?
Yes, for this type of purpose.
Oh, for the capital projects, we have one other client currently, but we're also talking to some other communities as well. I think we have two now. We have two now.
Any comments from members of the Ways and Means? Councilor Morabito.
So I notice in the payment plan, it would be 3 installments of $10,000 and then a final payment of $15,000, correct? Now, are there any expenses that we could incur if something doesn't go correctly, or have you found what's the negative?
Sure. We are planning to do this for a fixed rate. I mean, certainly if something that is completely unforeseen that none of us can imagine, we would possibly come back and talk to you about it. But truly the risk is on us. We put together the proposal. We think these are the resources that we need to get it done, and we will commit to producing the plan to your satisfaction.
Council Haas.
To follow up on Steve's questions, we're talking about a total investment of $90,000, correct? The 45, 10 after the second task, 10 after the fourth task, and 10 after the sixth task?
Just for clarification, it's 45 total, and we're just breaking it down into installments throughout the process, but 45,000.
That's total cost?
Total cost. Except for the
great,
optional tests, which I said have not been included in this.
That's a great investment, you know, from the Collins Center. I think the city should really look at this favorably, without question. You know, it's something we cannot do in-house. We don't have the people. We don't have the expertise. And I think coming from you people who have the expertise, it puts everything in order for us as a city. And thank you.
I certainly think it's needed based on the fact that we have a facility over at the DPW that's in dire need of repair. We have equipment over at the DPW that's in dire need of repair. Our fire apparatuses, as far as we know, are pretty good. But we still have to have another oversight review in our process and link us to avenues of how we can derive monies to pay for this. And any plan, in my opinion, when you make a projected plan for the future, you're doing it's a betterment for whatever business you're in. And I think the private sector does it this way, and I don't see why not the public sector shouldn't do the same thing. You know, we have facility brand new at the police station, but we have a daily operational process there that involves vehicles that are getting battered every night they go out and every day they go out. So there's a need for that. So there's a lot of need for the services that you're talking about. I mentioned in one particular facet that the gentleman was speaking, I don't know who it was, whether it was Thatcher or Michael, in reference to when we do streets and sidewalks over and there's infrastructure below that needs repair, it drives me crazy to see us put forward good money to surface a whole street, and then weeks later we have to dig it up because the infrastructure below is faulty and needs repair. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. The other thing that, in my opinion, is bigger than that, it's the utility companies that come into our community that they come on our properties by right. You know, we can't stop them from doing the process that they're doing. But again, that drives me crazy when we repave a new street and they come in and dig it up. So do you work hand in hand with the utilities as to what the future needs would be?
We don't particularly work with the utilities, although we could make an inquiry. Oftentimes they don't, and they're not forthcoming. But one of the things we could do, if you are interested, is offer some policies for the council to adopt, such things as how many years after a road has been paved it can be cut, some of financial practices, things like that, to kind of wrap around the plan itself to help set the stage for those sorts of things.
I know private developers won't be happy with this, but I think that when someone builds a property, they should be required, and they have to put utilities into that new property that they're building, they should be required to do the whole street, because they just dig up in front of that, and we have an ordinance now that just says they have to replace the sidewalk with cement. But it goes beyond that, because once you hit the street again, you're causing havoc with the vehicles that are traversing on that street. So, I think there's a tremendous need for your service, and I think that the mayor is in the right process of bringing this to our attention. And I think it behooves us to go forward with it, because yes, $45,000 is a lot of money, but you got to look at the big picture here of what it's providing for us, and hopefully we will save this tenfold if your efforts really come to fruition and we can do something with it. I think it'd be a great idea. Any other members wishing to speak? Council President Zambudo.
Hello?
I won't know what to call you.
I suspect it's him.
Hello? Hey, wait a minute. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I could have probably said this without a microphone. I've been a fan of this process, and I've kind of been a cheerleader, and that's one of the reasons that it's before us today. It's absolutely necessary. It's all positive and good for the city to go down this road. It's absolutely the fiscal responsible way to move forward. So I wholeheartedly endorse this and hope we go forward with it. Thank you.
Any other councilors wishing to speak? Hearing Councilor Patch.
How's that, Mr. Chairman?
Beautiful.
Firstly, I think it's a great idea. Any help that we can get, and which I think is a reasonable price, is a plus, because it gets more complex. And the administration has been doing a great job, but I'm sure they could use some guidance, like we all can. And I think that I think it's well worth the money. Thank you.
I also note that on the timeline, this notes September. We're talking September. Obviously, September is next week. Are we on board that fast if we supply the okay this evening? Mr. Mayor, would you like to speak?
Yeah, no, I mean, I know that everybody's spoken, so I just wanted to just offer some final thoughts. Yeah, I believe the answer to your question, Mr. Chairman, is that they could start, once the council approves the authorization to the $45,000, I believe you could start right away, correct? Is that, yeah, so, but, and I think all of you have touched on it, and I think Councilor Haas talked about it. You know, at first you weren't sure whether it was 90 or 45. When you realized it was 45, it's like, this is kind of a no-brainer. I mean, when you think of the work that they're going to do, and not to minimize $45,000, but, I mean, there's one project that maybe they identify or one piece of equipment that they have us, you know, replace instead of maybe repair, or maybe a major piece of equipment like down at the city yard or something like that. I mean, it could pay for itself. So I'm glad so far it seems as though that the council is supportive. It's going to give us a professional capital improvement plan, one that we couldn't do ourselves as a city. This is why this level of expertise that we have behind me right now, they will be able to provide that expertise, and it's something that the city could continue to use over time and modify it over time as we see fit. But this will be a great launching pad for us to create a real capital improvement plan that incorporates all those benefits that they talked about. And again, I think it will service not just the administration, or certainly not just my administration, but future administrations, you as a city council, future city councils, in the way that we allocate money. You know as well as I do how many times that over the years, whether when Councilor Haas was mayor or when Tom Ambrosino was here, you come running up because you need a new fire engine, or you need 2 new cruisers, or you need new public works equipment. This hopefully will avoid us having to do that as an emergency, because we'll know what we have as far as what we have in terms of our assets now, and when the useful lifespan of those assets are going to be coming to a close. We'll know what we have to actually go out and purchase. So it won't be a secret to you. It won't be a secret to me. We'll be working together on what we need to do for that following year. So hopefully this is a plan you'll embrace. And if possible, I would ask if it's okay if you take this up this evening.
I'm going to take a vote with subcommittee members now. We'll vote this out this afternoon, and we'll forward this information over to the committee of the whole this evening, and hopefully we will vote this out favorably. Obviously, we don't have enough members here to give you an idea of what's going to happen, but right. I think pretty much every council who spoke is in favor of it, so that's a good trend. I'm going to ask for a membership vote right now from the members of the Ways and Means, and then we'll go forward. Councilor Marabito?
Yes.
Councilor Patch?
Yes.
Versus of his office, Council President Zambuto? Yes. And the acting chair votes yes. And we will refer this out to the committee of the whole favorably. And prior to joining this Ways and Means meeting, I want to first tell you why I'm sitting here. I'm the acting chair of Ways and Means, and Councilor Richard Penter is the chair of Ways and Means, and he called me today saying he wasn't feeling good. He has this oncurring event that's occurring with him, and he was pretty down and upset about the recent illness that he has. So he's concerned about his health, as he should be, and he just wanted me to convey the message to people that he is still working hard for his ward, but he just won't be in attendance this evening. So get well quick, Richard. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. The next order of business is a unit contract between Unit C and City Revere Call Takers. Members of the subcommittee, we have roughly 15 minutes in which we can discuss this, because our meeting will be turned over at 5 o'clock to another subcommittee. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is George Anzoni, 141 Fenley Street, Revere, Massachusetts. I negotiate the union contracts. I'm one of the negotiating people on the negotiating team, and I directly negotiated this contract with the Unit C. Unit C is comprised of our call takers and dispatchers for the public safety. It's local number 22. The agreement in itself is that it's a 2% salary increase from July 1st, 2014 to June 30th, 2014. The clothing allowance will increase from $300 per annum to $350 per annum. This agreement is for 1 year, and the reason it's for 1 year is that we have a reopener clause in here if the rec center, the regional emergency communication center, opens during this year, which is expected to. There's a budget that's put together for the regional emergency, the rec center, communication center, which allows for a different salary rate for the employee. Once the rec center opens, the employees in Unit C will no longer exist in the city of Revere. The rec center itself will be a separate entity under the law, and especially the legislation, special legislation that was passed. So, if there's any questions, I'm here to answer.
What's the financial impact on this?
The financial impact, they're very lowly paid. It's somewhere in the area for this year. It's a 2% increase, and probably somewhere in the area of about $20,000-$25,000
For the year?
For the year.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions from the members of the subcommittee? Any questions from any members of the City Council? This seems to me to be relatively simple, and we're going to, obviously, I'm going to ask for a vote on this so we can take this up this evening, and I'll ask again the members of the subcommittee if they would voice their opinion. Councilor Morabito. Yes or no?
I'm in favor, yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch.
Yes.
Council President Zambuto. Yes. And the Council Acting Chair, me, I vote yes. So we will vote this out favorably this evening for the Committee of the Whole, and no need to stay in attendance. We'll let you know what took place, but I'm relatively sure this will be approved by the City Council.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your attendance. We appreciate that. Now there's two other items on the agenda, first being water meter program. Do we want to entertain reviewing that for 15 minutes, or?
I think we're going to review it very quickly if you have any questions.
And you're going to do the review? That's fine. You're in place. The next would be the water and meter program.
Okay, at this time the city has undertaken the AMI water meter program, which which is comprised of a committee. The committee was myself, who was the chairing the committee, Don Goodwin, the DPW superintendent, Nick Rystrom, Glenda Rosa, the MIS director, Joan Shea, water billing water sewer billing, and Robin Zajakowski, water sewer billing. During the past few months, the committee has met for a number of reasons. The evaluation committee had to first evaluate the meter itself. We did that evaluation, and we got what we call a very high-end meter. It's the new technology in the block, which will be lasting us quite a long time. It doesn't have moving parts as the present meters have. It's more of a system that allows for the water flowing through it and is very accurate at low flow rates. The AMN, at that point, we then had to look at the technology. That's the second evaluation the team had to look at, which we did. The technology is such, this is a radio read meter, whereas there's no longer a need for meter readers. During a time period, I think it's once every hour, all the meters will be read in the city and re-read. The purpose of this is that if there's any problem with the meter, it will start flashing that there is a warning that something is wrong with the meter. The other part of it too is these type of meters are pretty much tamper-proof. They're probably the least tamper-proof, least amount of tampering to go on with these meters on the market. And this is why we want this type of meter. Plus it has what they call a flow rate of, instead of 300 and some odd pounds for a brass meter. These are plastic. The blow rate is somewhere in the area of 600 and some odd pounds, so they won't be cracking in winter or causing us any problems. Because believe it or not, people put their meters on the outside because they don't have a solid meter for us to get into. Solves the problem in the fact that meter reading, we don't have to have meter readers go out and read the meters. The readings come automatically. There are a number of cities and towns that use them in Massachusetts. The installation of these meters is another portion that had to go over the bid, so there were 3 contracts on this. There's one, the actual meters, the software for the meters, and then the installation. All of this has been processed. We are now meeting on a pretty much a bi-weekly basis to get the program started. It actually has started. We are looking at 100 customers of first installation to see how it's working so that they can be evaluated. A number of people who are involved have, who are in the evaluation team have also put their homes meters as what is needed so that we can evaluate how we feel these meters are working. At this time, I'd like to, looking at it, everything all the contracts have been signed. It's a sensor meter system. They're radio controlled. We actually have to build a tower up near the reservoir, and the difference between this system and other systems is there only needs to be one repeater. So if we have one repeater, there's not going to be problems. We'll be able to bounce them across the city so that we can read these meters, as I said, on a basis. The total of the 3 bids is $3,702,612.50, and this compares favorably with the value listed in what we did listed in our DPP loan of application of $5 million. The loan application included contingency allowance, and according with the standard procedures, the low bid for the installation contract is especially favorable. In fact, on that matter, it turned out that it was quite a bit in the city's favor. What we did look at is, as I said, the installation is going to begin shortly. It's going to be a 2-year process. There's going to be press releases on the meters and meter installation and the program in and of itself. What will happen when this is completed, there'll be a much more accurate reading of the water usage in the city so that some aren't paying for others, and we'll have an exact account, pretty much exact account, a much more exact account, I should say, of the water usage in the city and where it's going. So it's going to be quite a benefit not only to the city as a whole, but also to the users, because at the same time, if you use the water, you'll be charged for it, and there'll be a good basis for an example. If there's a tampering with the meter, or is there a problem with the meter, is something flowing in your house, we'll be able to tell from here. So that'll be helpful to the users.
Well, I think this is certainly warranted. As I traverse the area of the residents that I represent, a lot of concern comes from the water meter and are they paying their true amount? And,
right.
and honestly speaking, I think that this will answer that once and for all once we get this in place. And certainly it helps everybody. It helps us get an accurate reading and make certain that we're not overpaying or overcharging our community and residents, and it's a big factor. Any members of the subcommittee wishing to speak? Well, Councilor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. George, as far as this new system coming in, will the city, all of the businesses within the community, will everyone be metered?
Everyone will be metered. Anybody that's using water will be metered.
Schools, etc.
Public buildings, everybody will be metered.
So we'll be able to determine from what the inflow is, what we're billing out.
Right. We'll determine that. Schools naturally don't. We'll at least see our water usage. For the first time ever, we'll be able to see what our water usage is. Where there was different types of meters we had to get because of the different sizes, and because of the uniqueness of our oil fields, we had to get a separate type of meter for that, and we're actually looking at, looking not only at the water portion of it, but looking at being able to put on the sewer covers that you see in the city, gauges so that we can see where the water is flowing through the sewer and see how that's coming out too. So we purchased a complete system at that, those monies, so that it can tell the Department of Public Works exactly what's going on with our water source system and infrastructure throughout the city. So it's going to be a very helpful project to us.
So the main issue is no one would be able to cheat the system.
That's right.
Okay,
That's
thank
right.
you. Thank
They have, some of the ways that they use, it's amazing. I shouldn't maybe tell them because maybe we'll start using it before we get this in.
Right.
But at the same time, I think we've looked at all of them, and at least most of the ones we know about, and this meter, and that's why it's the state of the art. And that's
Thank
why
you.
it's successful.
Yeah.
What's the exact dollar amount that we're looking for this evening?
We're not looking for any amount. This is just an update, to update the council, and also tell them about the programs that have set up. You'll see that there are going to be public meetings with city officials and customers. There'll be 2 public education mailings to be sent to all customers, 8 full-page newspaper advertisements, video describing and demonstrating the installation process, which will be available through the city website, up to 3 mailings to all customers to request them to schedule appointments through the web application, our 800 number. All written communication from the contractor customer will be in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Portuguese. And for the safety of our residents, we've taken further precautions. All installation contractors personnel who enter homes or businesses must have cleanly passed a Corey background check to be conducted by the Revere Police Department. All such personnel will wear an approved company uniform with picture identification and wear a meter installer badge. All vehicles used by the contractor will display identification acceptable to the city on both sides of the vehicles. So it's an informational communication. Hello? What would you like to ask? I can hear you. Yes. No, I haven't. The outside meters are used so that if you have a garden or whatever, it doesn't go down the sewer that is available. A decision hasn't been made on that, but however, we have found some tampering with those outside meters. What we may be looking at is some inline plumbing of those meters so that they're hard-lined, so you can't move them from, I shouldn't say where, to another place to use it, but at the same time, I just don't want to give anybody ideas, but at the same time, it'll be surely the water that's passing through and not going to the sewer. That would be on the homeowners the same as the meter is now. When you come in, you have to buy your meter. I believe it's $60, and you have it, and you take it home and you use it. However, on that circumstance, if you do want it, because at the same time is that if we had the city had to pay for that, that would be an expense that we wouldn't want to bear. We're looking. There are options that we haven't made a set on an agreed way of doing it, the manner of doing it, but we will be, I think right now the committee seems to be in agreement. The best way to do it for those that have dealt with it is the hard line in the piping inside the house so that the meter cannot be removed and sent out to put somewhere else and read that meter. So that's what we're looking at. Can we just have 2 minutes for the next one? I just have one. If we just have 2 minutes for the next one, there'd be a change in the next one. Right now, what's happening is that the city has experienced a tornado damage to this building, and if it's the pleasure of the council, rather than the $1 million, I think and I've spoken with the mayor's approval, that if we could have 50,000 so we could finish the plans, because we are going to be receiving insurance money back from, from our insurance companies and whatever other aid we may get. And rather than duplicate the expenditures, we might be fixing here now, but then if we change the structure of the hall, we have to redo it. We'd like to have available to us the option, at least, of instead of spending the money twice, to spend it once. So if we have the plans done, when the money comes in, we know exactly how to spend that money, and we can spend it in a much clearer fashion, in a much architectural plans, that's correct, and working on that. So that way there, we're not spending the money twice, we're spending it once, we're spending it in the correct way, in the correct manner, and that's why we're looking for 50,000 instead of the $1 million. And if we can get that 50,000, then we'll be able to finish the plans and the architectural plans and see where we stand and know exactly where to spend the money.
We're going to spend 50 now.
Right.
Before we get the insurance.
Right. Well, okay, well, they are repaying us for the damage that's been done, but if some of the remodeling that has to be done, which they'll be paying us for, because of the tornado, right, tornado damage. Right. Right, because there's going to be a reconfiguration of offices. Those offices may, when you do the repairs on those offices, in the refiguration, they may want it a different way. It may require a different way to reconfigure them and remodel them rather than the one that would be taking place. It won't cover all the reconfiguration, but it'll cover some, and I don't want to spend that money. Well, the recommendation is the administration does not want to spend that money twice. They want to make sure when they spend that money in those funds, they're spending them on the future need of that office and that office space. I don't know. I wish I knew, but I don't know. I have 3 block windows in wood in one office, and the other one is the ceiling's down, so my office has got the most damage in the hall. So.
Any of the members of the subcommittee wish to speak? Any other councilor wish to speak? Voted on the subcommittee for $50,000. Councilor Rigo. $50,000.
Stabilization fund.
Councilor Maravito. Councilor Thatch. This is $50,000 appropriation from the stabilization fund for the architectural team for renovation of City Hall. Yes. Councilor President and the chair votes yes. We will hold this out favorably this evening to the committee of the whole.
Okay.
And see where we go from there.
Should I stay for the committee of the whole? Or?
If you wish.
Okay.
I mean, it's self-explanatory as to what it is. They might, the other members who are not here might have questions.
Okay, so I'll be here for the next meeting.
Do you need me for this,
Megan.
or no? Do you need me to stay, or? I'm sorry, we're still meeting.
Okay. All right. I'll stay for it. Yeah? I'll stay for it.
I oppose the obvious is where
Okay.